Hello, it's Shaun Attwood here of National Geographic Channel's Locked Up Abroad. This is video 3 of my series on sexual health in prison. And the next question is?
In a recent interview, Kate Monaco Klein, the director of HIV services for jail health in San Francisco, mentioned that the privacy of prisoners was taken into account when placing and installing condom dispensing machines amongst specified cell blocks in order to prevent the inmates from being outed. How vital is the privacy and security of inmates' sex lives?
It's vital to the health and life I know a prisoner who was called Shira, and Shira was outed when Shira came in, and Shira ended up getting gang raped multiple times. They beat Shira until, I'm going to say she because she's transgender now, until she was unconscious. They raped her while she was unconscious. They stuck broomsticks inside her while she was unconscious. And I asked her, as a young person coming to prison who's gay, what would happen if the other people found out? And Shira said basically, if you're gay and you can't fight or you've not got protection, don't let anybody know, because if you are perceived as weak or vulnerable, the predators in prison will just exploit you to the maximum. And in Shira's case, how Shira stopped it was, Shira was studying anatomy and she came up with an idea, and when the gang members came to rape her 2 times in a row, the first member of the gang to put their hand on Shira plucked the eyeball out, so it was dangling out the eye from the optic nerve, and that's what it took to stop it. But then the gang moved on to another prisoner, friend of Shira's. One guy was held down after being gang raped. They took a light bulb out, shoved it in his backside and smashed it while it was in there. Another one, they gang raped, they got a shovel from the work crew, held him down, cut his head off, and when the head was finally off, they positioned it in an area of the prison where the rival gangs could see it, to make the point that they were the most violent and ruthless out of all the gangs. I mean, this is a vicious, cutthroat, deadly environment we're talking about here. People can't go around disclosing things that can be taken advantage of.
Do you think these dangers would be exacerbated by the presence of a condom distribution dispensing machine?
A condom distribution dispensing machine would probably be used to target inmates who are vulnerable and known to be participating in sexual acts. I think a more sensible approach, particularly for inmates who the medical unit knew had AIDS or had deadly diseases, would be for those inmates to be called to the medical unit and to be given condoms and advice in the privacy of the medical unit, so other predatory inmates wouldn't be able to capitalise on that.
There's one section in Hard Time that entails the visit of a health educator who came and showed the inmates, including yourself, an STD slideshow. The health educator also brought in a dildo to the visit and showed the inmates how to put a condom on. Were there any desires amongst the inmates to practice safe or safer sex after this demonstration?
After the token class we had on sexual health, the inmates just laughed about the slides of the vaginas that were shown to us with STIs and the male parts that were shown to us with the STIs. And the reason prisoners participate in these programs is because it's the carrot and the stick. Most prisoners are high on drugs, and every now and then they get caught by the guards and they lose their privileges such as visitation and their right to buy things from the inmate store. Now, to earn those privileges back, they go to these token classes. So everyone is going through the motions, the guards are going through the motions, they know everybody's high. If they want to punish someone, they just say, I'm going to give you a urine test, and that's how they get to punish them. And the prisoners, when they get caught, they go to the classes and they just use that to get their visits back. But at the end of the day, I don't think hardly anything is learned from these classes at all. A lot of them are just big contracts that people are making money off to provide to the prison as well.
Did any of these inmates follow up on the desire to use a condom?
None of the inmates followed up on the desire to use a condom. that I'm aware of, but in the Maricopa County jail system, condoms weren't available anyway. So people who had AIDS or other diseases would, practice in unsafe sex.
Are there any taboos or stigmas associated with the practice of safe sex in prison?
The practice of safe sex in prison, because in Arizona it wasn't available, there was nothing, like condoms. Generally everybody was engaging in unsafe sex. So there was no one actually practicing safe sex that could have been frowned upon. And most guys were sharing needles as well. And that's how the hepatitis C epidemic has proliferated.
Generally speaking, what was the overall sentiment of the prison staff when it came to knowing or learning about an inmate's sexual activity?
When guards learned of inmate sexual activity, generally an inmate would receive either a disciplinary ticket, so then they'd lose their privileges, or if the inmate and the guard had a better relationship, then the guard would sometimes give the inmate just a warning and said, if we catch you doing that again, we will give you a disciplinary ticket. There was a minority of prisoners that were caught by guards, and the guards actually tried to get in on the action. There was a situation where my friend Shira, was in my cell one day, and we'd been writing up a blog, and one of Shira's friends had come in there, a frisky gentleman that was acting in the capacity of my butler, kind of Jeeves character, and he was hitting on Shira, and he actually pulled out his man parts and tried to get Shira to commit a sexual act. And as all this is going on in my cell, this redneck guard walks in, sees them in there, assumes that we're all having some kind of orgy, and then starts hissing on Shira and gets really offended when we're all acting like we don't want to do anything sexual with him, and then starts asking Shira, when would Shira be available in a cell on her own so that they could commit sex acts together. And he also said that he was going to change his shift to the night so that he could, particularly take advantage of the lack of surveillance and the people being asleep to get Shira and himself together in a sexual capacity. So every situation in prison depends upon the characters of the individuals at that point in time.